Shut up and sit down.
Hello, my name is Justin Adams.
Hello, my name is Patrick Golan.
And welcome to
Neighborly Discussions. Go ahead.
We took a little hiatus.
Yes.
Just a small one. But that's okay, because now I'll see a better time to come back than Christmas.
Yes.
We have our Christmas get-ups on, and he's got his coffee cup. I have my water bottle, which isn't Christmas at all.
This isn't Christmas either. It's Captain America.
We decided to watch a bunch of Christmas movies. We just talk about some like weird ones, some nostalgic ones, and some classics, but not like we're not trying to do like the cliched.
We're trying to stay away from the more mainstream Christmas movies like It's a Wonderful Life and Christmas Carol and stuff, and we're gonna focus more on Christmas movies from our childhood, some obscure ones, some cult classics. But there was one movie in particular that both of us hadn't seen since we were kids. And that is Jeannot Schwartz's 1985 classic, Santa Claus, the movie.
Classic is a strong word.
Yeah.
It certainly should be.
It bombed upon its initial release. It had a $50 million budget. It only grossed $23 million. The Salkinds, they basically started the Superman franchise back in the 70s. With Christopher Reeve. After Part 3 came out, I believe they sold the rights to Superman to Canon Films. And they decided to do Santa Claus the movie. An origin story for Santa Claus. Which is kind of funny considering it's the Salkinds, because watching the movie, and just as we previously discussed before we started filming, the stories between Santa Claus in this movie and Kal-El, Superman from Krypton, are exactly very similar.
Yeah. But the difference is Superman the movie took its time with its story, especially with the origin. Santa Claus the movie has no idea how to take its time, and its origin story. It's called Santa Claus the movie, but it's not. It's not really even about him.
Yeah.
It's about like greed and consumerism. Yeah. It's a very weird, bizarre Christmas movie, and it's so weird because I was saying outside, like, Santa Claus. We all know that he's not real. Sorry, kids, but it's an interesting story though. It's something that people should. It should be an origin story that I'm surprised we haven't gotten. And it's because of this movie, probably. Because of this movie, the studios were like, alright, people don't care about Santa Claus.
It was awful, and I have to give props to the production design.
And some of the effects, like the special effects weren't bad.
No, but they are obviously, any of the flying scenes with the reindeers and the sleigh and stuff are obviously like recycled Superman the movie visual effects. But let's start off at the beginning. So it opens with this, I think in like the 1840s.
Yeah, somewhere in the 1800s.
And there's this woodworker in this village.
And his name is Claus.
His name is Claus.
But he's not Santa.
He's not Santa.
It's just Claus.
And he's a woodworker, and he makes all these toys, and he delivers them on his sleigh on the ground with two reindeer named Donner and Blitzen. So him and Mrs. Claus have to go out on one night during a storm to bring toys to children across the forest. They take their sleigh out, and they go out, and they get stuck. And they fucking freeze to death.
They die.
And well, maybe don't die. They get frozen.
And then the next morning, they're saved by a bunch of elves.
Elves, like this big, like glowing light appears in the middle of this open fucking snowfield, and a bunch of elves pop out. One of them played by Dudley Moore of Arthur and Ten. And they basically bring them back to life and tell Claus that you will be Santa Claus from now on, and
your name is Santa Claus.
This is our magic North Pole factory that just appears out of fucking nowhere, and it looks like a fucking the ski resort from The Shining, but with more Christmas lights. Basically, he's just like, oh my, okay, yeah, I'll be Santa Claus. And then there's Mrs. Claus as well, who actually probably delivers one of the best performances in the movie, along with John Lithgow. There's no explanation to the history of Santa Claus. It's like these elves just appear out of nowhere. Where the fuck did they come from? And they make this guy Santa Claus.
It's actually a horror movie.
It's really
they save this dude and then they make him stay there. They make him be Santa Claus.
They give him eternal fucking life.
Yeah.
To deliver toys to all the children. It's really weird.
It's weird because like there's no setup to it. Like it makes zero. I know like the origin of Santa Claus is already pretty weird.
Yeah.
But it makes absolutely no sense. The best part of the origin story, like the only time where I felt like that they actually thought about something was the naughty list thing.
Yeah, like so in the middle of this montage where basically he becomes Santa Claus and they do this big lead up to him, you know, real quick. So he's got the 2 reindeer, they bring them back to life, they get to the North Pole, the other 6 reindeer are just there.
Yeah. No Rudolph though. There's no Rudolph.
No Rudolph, but Prancer and
Comet.
Yeah, all the other reindeer are there, and so he becomes Santa Claus. The 8 reindeer get slid, and they make this magical reindeer food out of
it's magic dust.
It's like pixie dust from Peter Pan.
Yeah,
like they eat it in their reindeer food, and it causes. Well, first they go into like violent convulsions.
They start seizing out.
Yeah. And then they become flying reindeer, and he takes off, and then from there they do this weird like 10-minute montage of him delivering these same fucking shoddy wooden toys like throughout the next 100 years. And then throughout that montage, they stop and do little bits like, you know, this little girl sends a letter to Santa Claus. It's saying that her brother tortures her cat, and then Mrs. Claus comes up with you shouldn't deliver toys to him on Christmas. And like a naughty and nice list, and then Santa instructs his elves to make a list of all the naughty and nice boys. That was a nice touch.
And then he said after that, he was like, make sure you do it, but make sure you make the list through, because then I'm going to check it twice.
I'll be checking it twice.
And I liked that. I did like that a lot. But, that was the only time we got a little bit of a nod or an explanation
to the traditions of Santa Claus.
Exactly. Like, I honestly think that the Santa Claus with Tim Allen.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Did a better job with an origin than this, because at least with the Santa Claus, it was a little bit more real.
It was people like taking over the guise of Santa Claus.
Yeah, like
throughout the course of time. Yeah. In this one, it's just the 1840s. Well, us elves can't do this anymore, so we need a fat fucking bearded man to fly our magic reindeer across the world and deliver. But there's just no like concrete history. There's no there wasn't a Santa Claus before him. There's this master elf that Burgess Meredith from Rocky plays that fucking he needs like 18 elves to carry his fucking braided beard. Yeah, that was Burgess Meredith. You didn't know? Mick? Yeah, I gotta cut him, Rock.
Oh my god, that is so funny.
But I just like he has 18 fucking elves carrying his little braids of beard like down this pathway, and he basically tells Claus that, okay, you are immortal now, and for the rest of time you will deliver these presents to the kids. That's kind of a shitty deal.
Yeah, forcing this dude to do all this stuff, and then not only that, these elves are just there. But there's no, we don't know how the fuck they got there. We don't know why they're building things. We don't know why they have these costumes. We don't know why they're living in the North Pole. We don't know why anything is happening. At least with you're killing us.
Cut it out, man.
No, but at least with the Santa Claus, like at least with the Santa Claus, they actually had an explanation as to why things happen. So we should also mention the music. The music is the best part of this movie. The score came from Henry Mancini. Yeah, there we go.
He's done
the Pink Panther theme.
The Pink Panther. He did Wait Until Dark. He did Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah, but especially like the Pink Panther thing is like one of the most notable themes in movie history, and the music in this is pretty damn good.
Yep.
But it's definitely the best part. But it doesn't save us from getting bored to sleep, especially this guy right here.
I literally fell asleep the last like 20 minutes of the movie. I was in and
the
out.
last 20 minutes were the slowest part to me.
Oh,
like
man,
the movie was actually pretty fast.
When they were in the North Pole, despite like not giving us any answers to like the true mythos of Santa Claus, it was still fairly engaging. And you had these two particular elves, Patch and I don't know, Fuzzy or the other guy, and they were competing, and Patch, played by Dudley Moore, is all about like streamlining manufacturing the toys up in the North Pole.
His inventions are ahead of its time.
Where the other elf is, very much like, no, let's do these from scratch and make them popular. Not popular, just make them reliable and old-fashioned. But, fast forward to the 20th century, but before we had mentioned it was the 1800s, but like it starts out in the 14th century. And so centuries go by, and they just, this horrible montage of Santa delivering toys, and he gets exhausted when 1985 comes about. So Mrs. Claus suggests, hire an assistant. And so they basically have a toy build-off between Patch and this other elf. And
I forgot about that.
Patch wins because he makes this machine that pumps out toys like really, really quickly. But they start falling apart.
And that's the best scene of the whole movie. When everyone on the same block, in the same street, all the toys are breaking. Like everyone's playing with their toys, like, and the parents are with them. And one kid's like on this bike and it falls
the front
off.
wheels fall off.
This kid has a wagon and the wagon breaks and then he steers off and then a bus comes by.
All on the same block, mind you. This isn't like a montage. Well, it is a montage of shots, but it's all on the same fucking street corner that these 4 instances of toys breaking happen, and then it cuts back to the North Pole, and Santa and Mrs. Claus are just kicking it there in their living room talking about, oh, what are we gonna do next year for Christmas? Boom! All the fucking broken toys just start coming down the chimney, like the parents know where to fucking send the broken toys.
People have the P.O. box, I guess, where to send their unwanted toys.
We get to 1985, and we're introduced to these two fucking kid characters.
I have the names.
Joe and I think it's Corellia.
Christian Fitzpatrick plays Joe. I didn't get the girl's name though. Christian Fitzpatrick is the worst part. He's like this homeless kid named Joe, who Santa Claus, and the movie. It forces us to like these. It forces us not really to like these characters, but to try to care about these characters, to focus on these characters.
Yeah.
And Joe, the main one, is this homeless kid who has nothing, and Santa Claus one day sees him, and he's like, ho ho ho, I'm gonna take this kid around with me, and he takes the kid around with him, and then he meets this rich girl.
Who's an orphan also, who's in and out of these homes.
Yeah,
she's also the step-niece of John Lithgow's character. Who's the main villain.
Yeah, who we'll get to in a second. But these two kids are supposed to be like our sympathy, like to tug our heartstrings moments, but they just have terrible chemistry.
You got to have children characters in a Christmas movie.
But
they're awful.
There's like no chemistry with these kids. Like they're really. I've seen some bad children actors before, and the '80s have the best terrible children's actors.
But some of the best too.
But these kids are awful. And there's also this scene where because once the two kids they have this adventure with Santa. So they move on with their lives, and it shows in this montage sequence them in school. And there's a scene where the girl, she's in the locker room, and there's this girl who's like waiting to say her line.
Yeah, okay.
And then,
well, my mommy says that Santa Claus isn't real.
And then then the girl's response to it, the girl's immediate reaction is to smack her arm as hard as she can.
But it's I shit you not. So she literally hits her like this, like. But
the sound design.
It's like the classic Indiana Jones, like just like a steel rod hitting wet leather.
You don't have any parents, so ow!
Like punching sound effect. So it's just it's so freaking. It just takes you so out of the movie.
And Joe is like getting picked on. Like these kids are just like throwing him around, and he's like saying the entire time, "It's true, it's true.
He's
I did
real."
beat Santa. It's like, what? No, I would beat you up too. Why would you run around to these hoodlums?
Yeah.
And say that Santa is real?
There's there's no. It just comes out of nowhere because even if they had just inserted shots earlier in the movie that shows these kids being picked on in school,
yeah,
and then it could have just you could have cut some of the North Pole shit out and really fleshed out
No. We should have cut the kids out and kept the North Pole because it's called Santa Claus the movie. But I mean, like the movie. It doesn't have a story. That's something that I kept on telling him when we were watching it, is that there's actually
nothing going on.
There's no story going on, and it's supposed to be. It's called Santa Claus the movie, so it wants to be an origin story, but then again has no interest in being an origin story. It wants to be a Christmas movie, but it's so mean spirited and so dark.
No.
I never felt like I was watching a Christmas movie. I felt like I was watching a really, really bad movie about greed. And starring Dudley Moore.
Commercialism.
And so that brings us to the main point of this movie, actually. Like, the main plot in the last 40 minutes. Oliver's still going crazy.
Yeah, he loves these videos.
John Lithgow's character is introduced. He is this... and this is one of my favorite parts of the movie. He is this toy maker kind of guy. Like, he's like this manufacturer. And his introductory scene
in the courtroom.
He's in court because his stuffed animals had
nails and broken glass inside of them
and razor and who the fuck? If you're evil, how can you make yourself that evil to the public? You want at least to the public. You won't be able to buy your toys, so you want to at least look good to the public. But you don't even care about your audience. You're just putting broken glass and stuff. Yeah.
So he's finished in the toy business, and because Patch failed at
he
making
himself.
the toys, he fires himself and leaves the North Pole because he doesn't think he's worthy. He comes to New York right when BZ's toys are being taken off the shelf, and he sees us in a storefront, and he's like, wow, he must be good if they're flying off the shelf that quickly. So he goes to meet John Lithgow's character, and they create a union to make all sorts of new Christmas candies that have this reindeer dust in them.
That
seized up the reindeer and then made them fly.
And then they find out at the end that these things, if they're eating these lollipops and these candies next to fire, they can blow up.
Yes.
And this came from the North Pole. Like, this wasn't something that John Lithgow made. Like, his character, that would be understandable if he actually made something that would blow up kids, because he had shards of glass and stuffed animals, but this came from the North Pole. This is shit that they're feeding to these poor reindeer.
And then, long story short, Dudley Moore realizes his mistake, and he gets back together with Santa Claus and the two kid characters, and they all save Christmas together. I don't know, you could probably do a better...
They didn't save Christmas. The best part about the ending is that it was set in March. Because there's supposed to be Christmas 2.
Oh yeah, because John Lithgow comes up with Christmas 2 as a new holiday because he wants to fast track another candy cane versions of this flying candy, of which his demise is he eats this candy and he floats up into fucking space.
It's funny, the more that we're talking about it, the more I want to... I'm starting to like it. But watching it was really awful. It's the worst Christmas movie I've ever seen. The guy that played Santa, they got the dude who plays Jeffrey Lebowski.
Condolences! The bomb's lost!
They got They got fucking Arthur.
Are you a hooker? Jesus, I forgot. I just thought I was doing great with you.
Dudley Moore
as the main Elton. They got John Lithgow as the villain. It just felt like that they weren't setting out to make anything that they were actually trying to make.
Yeah.
It felt like that they were trying to go out of their way in each direction to do something that was different from Christmas movies. But then again, this was at a time, this was 1985, where Christmas movies weren't a thing. So
they were a thing,
but they weren't like as like popular as they are now. Like as like there's like Christmas movies every single year. Like like back then it was like more like family stuff. It wasn't in like Christmas specials. Like it was mostly TV stuff, and they decided to really shit on it and really do absolutely nothing with the movie.
It seemed like they were banking more on the spectacle than the actual story. And an interesting side note is that originally John Carpenter was going to direct the movie.
Shut your mouth.
No, money is on screen because the production design in it is fabulous. And one thing I wanted to bring up is that it's 1985. And I'm sorry, but those toys would have been returned to the North Pole because they were shitty fucking old toys.
Yeah, they never.
I'm sorry.
They never evolved from the.
No,
from
the kids wanted Nintendos. They didn't want a fucking wooden wagon. Maybe some kids.
I remember my brother and I, when we were kids, he would always say, instead of remaking really good movies, they should remake bad movies just so they can improve on what they did before. And I feel like this is a movie that definitely needs a remake because it...
Oh, they did. It was called The Santa Claus with Tim Allen.
No, not that, because that I do love the Santa Claus, but that's just because I'm a millennial and that was right when I was a kid. And I feel like that with today's technology and with today's actors too, like they can make this movie a lot better than it was, and they can maybe actually focus on the origin story of Santa Claus rather than trying to make this movie about shit that we just don't care about. Shit that it's not the reason why I watch Santa Claus the movie is to watch Santa Claus. Even when he's in the movie, like the actor, he's just not. He doesn't click as Santa Claus.
He's serious.
And they don't.
There's not a lot. There's more joy in Mrs. Claus performance than there is in Santa Claus performance. He plays it like this tired old man, like, oh, he's insecure because he's got a big belly. Like,
yeah, I recommend any other Christmas movie to watch rather than this. And this is my grandpa's favorite Christmas movie.
Oh.
Right? But also 1941 is also one of his favorite movies.
Oh man,
so,
I haven't seen that in years.
Oh, it's awful. Overall, this movie is just, it's a hard pass. It's not a way that we probably wanted to start this.
For a movie called Santa Claus the Movie, there isn't a lot of Santa Claus in the... I mean, he's in there, but like you said, he doesn't speak. And they keep cutting away to the elf stuff. And then once they get to 1985, it's all about John Lithgow's character and how he's trying to destroy Christmas by making shitty toys.
But he's the best part of the movie.
He is. Like, it is one of the most cartoonishly over-the-top performances...
For free!
...from the 80s. And... John Lithgow kills it. He does a great job, but it's one of those things of like too little, too late. Like,
cause he comes in like an hour and like 30 minutes in.
No, it's an hour. It's about an hour in.
Yeah,
because the movie's an hour and 48 minutes.
Yeah, and he like him and honestly like that could have been its own movie. Like him and Dudley Moore's thing. Like Dudley Moore, like his character.
Like that should have been a sequel.
Not even a sequel, like that just, that should have just been the movie. Like, it's not something I would have wanted to see, but that was at least a plot, you know? Like, that was at least a storyline. The rest of it, there was nothing else. Like, it was just a bunch of characters and scenes, but that at least, like, there were two, like, stars, like John Lithgow and Dudley Moore, like, some people that were actually doing good in their roles. Like, Dudley Moore was fine, and John Lithgow was the best part. The storyline, while it's ridiculous, made sense, and I felt like that honestly could have been its own movie, but they decided to put it in Santa Claus the Movie, and I just don't fucking understand. I know why they did it, and it's because they had Dudley Moore and John Lithgow, and this dude that was playing Santa Claus is nobody, so let's give this guy nothing, and give these two a bunch of shit, and then let's get these kids, let's give the Santa Claus guy
kids were so bad.
A little bit of stuff with these kids. Yeah, it's really awful. All right, yeah, that's it for Santa Claus the movie. But we're not done with this Christmas stuff. We're gonna do a lot more.
But we got a whole list of Christmas movies, unconventional and conventional that we're gonna explore through the month of December.
Yeah, we're not gonna go through Christmas stories and all the Christmas carols and stuff.
Yeah,
we are gonna talk about like a little bit of stuff like that are based off of a Christmas Carol, but. There's just so many reviews of all those movies that and so many people talking like it's all a wonderful life. We don't need to.
And I mean, those movies have been around for so long, and they've been cemented in our culture that everybody knows what they are, and they have their own opinions about them. That I don't think we need to explore.
All right, and you can always follow me on Twitter at @I'm_420
at BuffMovie33.
And always remember to like, subscribe, blah, blah, blah.
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas!